Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason and Kelly, and this is the Let's Run podcast. Wanted to get a quick show for you all today as the Runnin' Rebels in the Mountain West Conference Tournament in what has become a yearly tradition took down the Air Force Falcons to move to 18-14 on the season. Air Force has been a common opponent for the Runnin' Rebels as they frequently have been in that 6, 7, 8 seed range, and Air Force has always kind of been on the opposite side of that bracket. Going back the last 10 years, UNLV has beaten Air Force like 8 times or 6, 7 times in the Mountain West Conference Tournament. So not a surprising result today. It was surprising how bad UNLV looked for the first 30 minutes of this game. Couldn't hit a shot, couldn't seem to solve the Air Force zone defense, with UNLV being out of UNLV being out of shooters, out of players, down Julian Rishwain, down DJ Thomas. It just kind of made sense that Air Force was going to go, and usually they do play a lot of zone regardless. But Air Force went heavy zone, kind of forced the Rebels to shoot. Eventually, the Rebels used their quickness and athleticism advantages to generate good looks, not just from the perimeter, but also on the interior. It was good stuff, to close out the game. But it was a really rough first, 25 to 30 minutes of the game. UNLV was down for a lot of it. They were down by 4 at the half. Even in victory, I can't say that I thought that the Rebels looked I can't say that the Rebels looked great. Shout out to Justin Marks, who was in the dancing competition. Wanted to shout out him. He just sent me a picture. Looking great, dude. I'm going to send him a DM just so he knows. Good job, Justin. Did not realize it was you. I was sitting there with my mom. I was talking to a couple of Colorado State fans. It was really good. I love the Mountain West Conference tournaments. You get to see a lot of basketball, a lot of different fan bases come together in Vegas, and really makes for a fun viewing experience. If you can tomorrow, I really would recommend, because I think the quarterfinal day is easily the most fun day of the tournament. But let's go over the stats here. UNLV wins 68-59. Let me put the stats up on screen. Don't expect to have a huge audience for the show today, just because it was a quarterfinal game that took place at 4:00 that people really couldn't get to. But I suppose I will break it down regardless. Air Force was led by senior guard Ethan Taylor, who is just an outstanding basketball player, outstanding person. He was 7 of 14 from the 3-point line. Really did just about everything he could to keep the Air Force Falcons in this game. He leaves as a senior with 23 points, only a 98 offensive rating, which for a guy that shot essentially 8 for 16 from the field and had 23 points is pretty remarkable. Besides him, really no other Air Force Falcon had more than 8 points. Really struggled. Really struggled in this game, and they've really struggled all season. They went 1 of 19 in conference play. But, whenever you play Air Force, you have to give them a level of respect just because, it's a service academy. And it's great playing them. It's great being in a conference with them. I really appreciate Air Force. And grateful that we get to play them. So I guess I'll go over the Rebels. The MVP of the game was clearly Jalen Hill. He played, besides some missed free throws towards the end of the game, but even still, he missed 5 free throws. He finishes with 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 18 points, almost a triple-double, a block, a couple of steals, no turnovers, 40 minutes played. Jalen Hill, just what a game. Congratulations to him. He came back after, having a torn ACL last year and really gave the team his all this year. And I thought was outstanding. Jaden Henley, not as good of a game, only 1 of 9 from the 3-point line, 3 of 6 from 2, which was great. Offensive rating was pretty terrible, 67. Besides Brooklyn Hicks, it was the team low. He had 4 turnovers. He did have 4 assists, so at least he was neutral. 6 defensive rebounds. Not a great game for Jaden, but that Air Force zone seemed to be giving Jaden fits. And I think Jaden excels better against man-to-man teams, which is kind of unfortunate because UNLV is playing Utah State tomorrow. Bear Cherry had a rough start to the game. Again, only 5 rebounds for Bear. Did have a couple of blocks. Really good rim protector. Bear developed into an awesome rim protector on the season. 5 of 9 from the free throw line. Finishes with 13 points. I thought Bear had a solid game. It wasn't spectacular, but and you just love to see his rebounding numbers be better. But Bear, solid but not spectacular game. Jalen Bedford, started out the game really rough. Didn't really do a lot in the first half, and then as the first half was kind of coming to a close, Jalen Bedford took a shot to the face and ended up dealing with blood. I think he was bleeding pretty bad. Came out of halftime with a massive bandage on his forehead. Um, it was a tight game, but Jalen Bedford hit 3 pretty massive second half 3-pointers that really kind of put the game away and broke it open for the Rebels. So it was the best Jalen Bedford performance in a long time. Brooklyn Hicks, I mean, just a terrible game. You know, I don't want to say it was too terrible because he did have 4 rebounds, 3 assists, only 2 points. Just don't know what's going on with Brooklyn. I thought that his defense was okay, but again, he just kind of seems to be in his own head. Isaiah Cottrell gets some minutes, did hit a 3-pointer, got a few rebounds, a couple of assists. Isaiah played some pretty bad defense, I thought. I did not like his inability to keep dribble penetration. I thought Pop was better, honestly, and I'm not sure why Pop didn't get more minutes instead of Isaiah, but ultimately, I do appreciate the contributions that Isaiah did make in this game. Um, Demarion Yap, who is Donovan Yap's younger brother, freshman, non-scholarship player, finishes the game 5 minutes, hit a 3 from the corner in his only shot attempt. Good to see him go in there and make a shot. I appreciate him. He's not expected to be very much. But I thought that he had a very, very, very reasonable performance out there in the very limited time that he was given. I thought he was solid. Not spectacular, not great, but certainly okay. And for UNLV, with the rotation as thin as it is, his contribution was much needed. And so it is what it is. The Rebels only shoot 61% from the free throw line. That's not great. Their rebounding was okay in this game. They end up out rebounding the Falcons by 8. Thought it was solid. Assist to turnover ratio was fine, 19-10. Not great, but not terrible. Not a ton of fouls. I thought the Rebels were the benefactors of a pretty heavy whistle, especially on the Falcons. And ultimately, only 6 of 21 from 3 for 28%, which is, they made 5 less 3-pointers than Air Force. Air Force, for a large part of this game, it really looked like they might be able to take down the Rebels, but ultimately the Rebels pull it out, and a win is a win. I know that there was a contingent of Rebel fans that were, really frustrated with Kevin, and, the reports are that, Kevin, despite all of the news swirling around his job. And I know that there was the huge podcast that I went on about UNLV lying about Kevin Kruger's contract situation. There has been, I don't want to get into it a ton today because I got to get home and I can't go too long on the show tonight. But there has been a couple of hit pieces in the RJ by Mick Akers, coming specifically from one Heather Brown of the Board of Regents. The Board of Regents has been criticizing UNLV, how UNLV has been doing the finances of their school. And I just got to say, the Board of Regents is full of crap. They suck. UNLV is spending money. They're investing into football specifically, and you got to spend money to make money. And they came out with a statement that said that UNLV didn't have the money to pay Dan Mullen beyond the first 2 years of his contract. And it's like, yeah, of course they don't, because 3 years from your job, your employer does not have your salary in a reserve fund 3 years from now. You have to, they're going to have to earn money to pay Dan Mullen's salary. That's just the way it goes. Nobody, Utah State hired Bronco Mendenhall. They do not have the full value of his contract sitting in a bank account somewhere. That's not how it works. And if there was an issue paying Dan Mullen, there would be there would be fundraising, and they would pay him. Like they're not. The article made it seem like UNLV couldn't afford Dan Mullen, and that's just the framing of it was so ridiculous. And I'm frankly disappointed in Mick for even posting that. But I won't go too deep into the weeds on that. Ultimately, I get that there's frustration. I think Kevin, even if he like wins tomorrow's game, which it's going to be a very long shot for the Rebels to have a chance in this Utah State game. I do not think any result besides maybe a trip to the conference tournament final, or if they win the conference tournament, he's going to be the head coach next year, and he should be, frankly. If he makes the conference tournament final, maybe he's the head coach next year, and frankly, I could live with that. But anything beyond that, even if he makes the semifinal and beats Utah State tomorrow, I don't see us retaining Kevin Kruger at this point. But that's a problem for Friday. Tomorrow is Thursday, and that's a problem for another day. So ultimately, I feel confident that the school is going to make the right decision. I am happy we won today. It's never a good thing to root for your team to lose. And it's going to be tough to beat Utah State tomorrow, but I hope it's a fun environment. I'm going to be there. I was there today at the Thomas and Mack for the Mountain West Conference tournament. Gloria Navarez is all over the building right now, and I had such a hard time. I had a couple opportunities to go up to her. It's such a hard time not wanting to go up to Gloria Navarez and tell her how sad I was, that she was good at her job, because I just hate the fact that the Mountain West still exists. But at least beyond 2026, I enjoy it right now. So ultimately, not a great win for the Rebels, but they did win. And they'll have a chance tomorrow to see if they can give to see if they can give Utah State a swing. And I will have full game coverage, probably not pre-game coverage, but definitely post-game coverage of the game. And hopefully the Rebels can do something fun and give us something to root for. So, guys, I'm going to close it off there. I appreciate you checking out the show tonight. I hope that you all have a wonderful time and the rest of your evening. And let's run. Woo!